Hello and welcome Exiles to a video that I think is going to blow your socks off a little bit, maybe, which is you can actually apply Galvanic Field to your own character and walk around with it. It's effectively something like a Righteous Fire feeling skill, because, you know, big circle around you, doing damage around you, and it isn't something you have to keep recasting and reapplying to one enemy here, one enemy there, and obnoxious to deal with, which is the main problem with Galvanic Field. The main reason I don't want to play Galvanic Field again is because of the feels bad nature of it. Now this solves that. Now how are we putting Galvanic Field on our own body? Well, for one, for all I know it might be bugged, but please GGG, do not bugs fix this because this is something unique and interesting, and it takes a skill that is complete garbage here and makes it maybe something I want to play, or maybe something somebody else wants to play. And I think it'd be cooler this way too, because as a skill, Galvanic Field has so many problems to begin with. Now, let's look at what's going on. How are we getting Galvanic Field to apply to ourselves? So what we're essentially doing is you have to hit yourself with lightning damage. That's the step one. You have to hit yourself with lightning damage. Can be done with Storm Secret. This can be done with Fizz Taken As, with like the Gluttony Belk, with a Scold's Bridle, with a Hiltless. You just have to hit yourself with lightning damage. And you have Fizz Taken as lightning or flat lightning from something like Storm Secret. After you take a lightning hit, you have to have chance to be shocked, because if you don't have chance to be shocked, it will never shock you. AKA, you need either Replica Reckless Defense for chance to be shocked, you need a Font of Thunder chance to be shocked, Mind of the Council chance to be shocked. These are only uniques that have chance to be shocked. You need a Self Curse with Conductivity for chance to be shocked. There's a few sources of it. There's not many. It's hard to get. But point is, you need to have some source of chance to be shocked. Right now, I have 2 Replica Reckless Defenses on this test character, which essentially means 1 out of every 5 self-hits with Storm Hit will trigger a shock on me. Now, after that, you have to then scale this shock. Now, a lot of these self-hit methods, they can't deal a lot of damage. They deal hardly anything to begin with. And the issue is, if I self-hit myself with this Herald of Thunder damage, I'm going to have like a 5% shock. And Galvanic Field scales specifically off of how big of a shock you're inflicting on an enemy. It gives you big radius, and it is a huge damage multiplier to the skill. If you're not scaling the shock, frankly, Galvanic Field does nothing. So for our character to scale the shock, from what I've gathered, or the way it works is, basically, if we have Vessel of Victor on us applying a 50% base shock, well, Galvanic Field, even though we're getting hit with like a 2% shock, actually considers the 50% shock. So we can actually use Vessel of Victor to have a base shock that's pretty high, and then Galvanic Field will base its AoE and its damage multiplier off of this base shock, not necessarily the pathetic base shock that I'm inflicting with this self-hit damage. It's a little wacky and a little weird. Now, on top of that, the question is, how the hell do you survive if you're purposely inflicting somewhere in the range of a 65 to 105 shock in the case of Voltaxic Rift? Well, the only solution I could mentally come up with is a Pathfinder doing Transcendence, because one, I need Pathfinder, or I need some Flask Sustain to get Vessel of Victor to just be on a regular basis. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is, how the hell do I survive that big of a shock? And the answer is, well, I'm pretty sure shock damage calculation is post armor calc, which means Transcendence, if I get hit with a bunch of ally damage, there's a good chance I survive with some good Transcendence, right? On this character, we have 93,000 armor. That's basically due to Iron Reflexes on our Sanctified Relic, and then doing Determination and Grace along with a Basalt and a Jade Flask. It's a huge amount of investment, but it will mean our character will be pretty tanky to hits, and hopefully will mean, even though we have a 90 to 105% shock when I get the Mastery, we will still survive the hit. That was the idea I was thinking with. Now, this shoehorns me into somewhere I don't want to be. I'd rather play Galvanic Field as crit to begin with, and I'd rather play it as an Occultist, an Inquisitor. I'd rather be on this side of the tree, not this side of the tree, right? There's a huge amount of travel. So, like, I opted for the route of going for Poison Galvanic, which I haven't even, like, leveled the field, or leveled the character, like, got into maps and, like, tested out my actual theory too much yet. Right now, it's just kind of seeming like it's going to be mediocre DPS at that. Point is, I'm making this video now because I think I've figured out a better way to do this character, a better way to inflict the large Galvanic Field on myself without bricking my character with this huge shock that is just going to get our character killed. Now, how do I plan to do that? Well, I'll give you a quick demonstration, which is with chance to be shocked from divergent conductivity, which gives shock effect or chance to shock. We also have Scold's Bridle, which gives any time we cast a spell and we use mana, we hit ourselves for fizz, and we're gonna have a little bit of fizz taken as. And the idea is pretty simple. We're gonna have a 100% chance to be shocked because I'm planning to probably self-curse with conductivity in a Shackles of the Wretched. With I probably have to do Ashes just for more chance to shock on myself is probably what I have to do and put an enhance on it. And I'm probably going to grab something like Hexmaster to make a permanent conductivity on myself, because getting Reckless Defense, Font of Thunder, that's all so much gear commitment that I don't want to make. I'd rather have a bit of Curse Effect and a highly capped conductivity, so that way when I curse myself with conductivity, I have something like 100% chance to shock on myself, and only like 20 minus lightning res, it should be felt relatively doable. The idea is pretty simple. So say I put on Rot Blood, say I put on Scold's Bridle, I have Font of Thunder. Do I still have Galvanic Field? Galvanic Field's right here. Okay. And then I need to unspec Eldritch Battery, because right now I have Eldritch Battery, and if you don't spend mana, you don't hit yourself with the Scold's Bridle. Now, the process here initially is, if I do this, you'll see I proc this 10% shock or whatever, and it's... Oh, I forgot. I need to put on conductivity, because it's not... Right now, it wasn't 100% chance to shock, so it wasn't putting Galvanic Field on guaranteed every time. But you'll see here, small AoE means we have a small, basically, shock on ourselves. So Galvanic Field should... Yeah, it should proc it pretty consistently in terms of putting it on our character. And I think if the shock wears off, I'm not sure it'll put it back on. Oh, let me see. Let me see if I can just do it with one cast. I should have about 100% chance to be shocked. Yeah, I can do it with one cast. So what's happening here is we have like something like 100% chance to be shocked. We were casting Scold's Bridle. We have Fizz taken as from Lightning Coil. That hits us with lightning damage. Now, what can I do to make it so this build has the ability to give the big shock from something like a Vessel of Vinctor, but doesn't keep that shock around? Now, I want to specify, because I get a lot of these questions, does unaffected by shock work? No. Does reduced effective shock work? No. Those things will brick Galvanic Field. If you have a high amount of reduction in shock effect on you, you're going to brick Galvanic Field. If you have unaffected by shock, it's going to brick. It's not going to have the AoE scaling. It's not going to have the damage scaling. And without those two things, Galvanic Field is 100% a dead skill. So, what I actually found out I can do is I can have a use when you become shocked mod on Vessel of Vinctor. And with this mod, and I'm not sure if this is 100% the play I'm going to go with, but right now I'm thinking it's the play I'm going to go with. With this mod, I 100% when I trigger the shock, this triggers at the same time Galvanic Field is trying to make its calculation, and you can see by the bigger radius that it is applying the 50% base shock. So it's a matter of simultaneously triggering the Vessel of Vinctor on the tick I'm hitting myself with shock damage. The reason I need this to be, because the other solution I have come to is we reduce the duration of shock by like 99% with something like Fire Song. If we reduce the duration of shock, it will last a split second, and we will cast it and the shock will be removed right away. Because if it lasts any longer than that and we have 105% shock on our character, just defenses are gone. You're just a one-hit glass cannon. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. And I don't want to be dead, right? So my theory is I get 99% reduced shock duration. I proc the when you shock Vessel of Vinctor, and the shock will come off within, you know, a quarter of a second. And that should be not something that happens too often where I get hit on the same like game tick or the same window of time, because frankly, I'm going to try to scale Galvanic Field's duration a little bit. It has a base duration of, I think, 6 roughly, if I remember correctly. I think it's about, yeah, it's about 6 seconds. If we get a little bit of skill effect duration on the tree or a little bit of skill effect duration in some other ways, potentially this is something where we only have to proc this every, you know, 10, 15, 20 seconds, depending on how I scale the duration. So the idea is Galvanic Field, we scale up the duration, but we scale the shock duration down, and we have the proc for Vessel of Vinctor. So that way, whenever we cast with Scold's Bridle, which I think is the thing I'll go with, I'll go with Scold's Bridle and some Fizz taken as, that will proc the window for giving us that shock, giving us Galvanic Field with a bigger shock, and then bye-bye no more. So proc it, have the... Sorry, I keep procking it with the not Galvanic Field. If I proc it with Galvanic Field, I guess there is a scenario where maybe it doesn't proc. I don't think I have a 100% chance to shock on my character or something. I'm assuming that's what's happening. I'll have to play around with it and see. Yeah, it works. I think I probably just am not 100% capped on chance to shock on myself, because I do have a reduced curse effect on this. No, it should be close. I'm not 100%. It's probably really close. I'll have to play around with it a little bit. But that's the idea I'm thinking with. For potentially giving me a way to not make this a Pathfinder, to make it another ascendancy that actually can scale Galvanic Field decently in terms of damage and be a spell, go crit, yada yada yada. Right now I have this cooked setup with basically a poison, which I'm not sure is really the correct play. And I'll give one more demonstration of me going through the Blood Aqueducts. I might still, I mean, maybe this Poison Fairy could have something going for it. I don't really know. I haven't really like haven't got the Ascendancy, haven't set up the gear really properly, just kind of got through the campaign and just was testing with this character and seeing what can I do with it. So the playstyle is pretty simple. Make sure I have this stuff correct. Oh, one thing I'm missing, Eldritch Battery. So Eldritch Battery plus Galvanic Field is something I press, and then Herald of Thunder, since we shock enemies with Vessel of Inctor, will instantly start going off. And the second it hits that 20% chance to be shocked, it will proc Galvanic Field. And then we have a build where we can walk around with a big, huge, lightning, righteous fire style build, where we're just shocking everything, and aesthetics is at maximum peak value. So that's the idea behind the character. I think I'm probably going to do... I think I want to try out an occultist setup with this new idea, and then it would have like Profane Bloom and all these chaos explosions along with the chaos lightning shooting around with Voltaxic Rift. I think it could be a lot of fun, and I'm going to scale the radius a bit harder than I am here in this current setup. And I think that would lead to a fairly fun, enjoyable build. So that is my current plans for changing this character, because initially when I was thinking about trying to set up this character, the only thing I could come to a conclusion was Pathfinder is necessary in order to survive, in order to protect myself from PKing myself. But I think I maybe can get away with a setup that involves Occultist and this proc the shock, remove the shock, or proc the shock, have really short duration, shock comes off very quickly, because Galvanic Field, it will last the entire duration, even if the shock removes very quickly, because the duration of Galvanic Field is based on the skill, not based on shock duration, not based on any of that stuff. It's based on the Phantasmal Galvanic Shock, Galvanic Field duration itself. So that's the character we were trying to make. Galvanic Field, I think, is a really interesting skill. It has so much awkwardness. It's kind of just a dead in the water skill, because it's so awkward to like apply the shock, recast the ability, apply the shock, recast the ability. Like, it's clear sucks. But if we can apply it to ourselves, it lasts a while, and just walk around a map and just have things being zapped around us, I think that's going to take the skill to the next level of being quite a fun build to set up and actually play with. So that's the idea for the character. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And I have to say, shout out to my man Beaups. He's the guy who discovered this thing that you could put Galvanic Field on yourself, and he's the one that got me thinking about trying to build around it. And so that's what I'm trying to do. He doesn't have a lot of time of the day to build around the skill, so he's like, hey, this is the thing I found, would you try to build around this? And then maybe I can get some enjoyment out of watching you try, because I don't have the time of the day to do it, sort of thing. So we are going to try to make him proud, and here's hoping. GGG, please do not bug fix this. This is not something you should bug fix. This is a diamond in the rough that makes your game better, because it's an unintended interaction that just makes the game more fun. It's not broken, it's not overpowered, and it's just interesting, and it makes PoE what PoE is, which is making cool builds. And I think that's the best part about it. So as always, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and take care, Exiles. Peace out.